Thank you for picking that call, sir.
Thank you.
All right. My guest today is a Nigerian who needs no introduction. Senator Shehu Sani, of course, was one of the senators who said no when the time got for the former governor of Kaduna State too, when he requested for a loan of $350 million from the World Bank. Today, it's another story, because we saw when he left the Senate, the member who replaced him, that loan was approved. And today, luckily, Governor Uba Sani is governor of Kaduna State, and he has let open the thing that Kaduna State is highly indebted. So indebted is Kaduna State that the money left after servicing the debt of Kaduna State cannot even pay salaries. So we reach out to Senator Shehu Sani today to have a conversation around all of that. Good morning once again, Senator.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so today on Citizens Forum, Senator, we'll be talking about not only Kaduna State's debt burden, but about the penchant for our government, whether they are state government or the federal government, to apply for and get one loan or the other. And so we remember in 2018 when you were there at the Senate, there was this request by the former governor of Kaduna State, Governor El-Rufai, and you bluntly refused that loan, that it be approved. And you gave your reasons then. Today, we see the sitting governor of Kaduna State raise attention to all of those loans. Can you really tell us just give us a rundown of how this started and where we are right now?
Kind of conditions that need to be met before any state or federal agency or the federal government in general source for loan. There is what is called the Debt Management Act of 2007, where all these conditions were clearly stated. If any state is going to source for loan, it has to forward its request through the presidency. And it is the president, especially if it's external loan, it is now the president that will forward it to the National Assembly for approval or disapproval. Kaduna State and many other states in the country. Governors most times abuse these loans facility to the point that when they are borrowing, they don't take cognizance. Are clearly stated. And these conditions are to save the state and save the people of the state from the burden that may arise. When you are going to source for loan and you come before the National Assembly, there are questions that are clearly stated which you need to answer. The first is, how much do you want to borrow? And secondly, you will be asked, what do you want to do with the money?
Yeah.
Thirdly, the question you will be asked is, how are you going to pay that money? And fourthly, the questions you will be asked is, who are going to manage that money? That is the transparency aspect of it.
All right.
And the fifth question you will be asked is, when you eventually pay, when you already start the process of payment of this money, will that not affect your own finances and governance in your state? In the case of Kaduna State, when they came before me, I asked this question and I was not convinced, because Kaduna, like Enugu State, like Ibadan, used to be the headquarters, regional headquarters. So when states were created and liabilities and assets were shared, Kaduna was left with almost a debt of almost $250 million for more than 50 years. So we have been paying this money in gradual. Every government that came will make provisions for payment of this money. Then suddenly, Governor El-Rufai wake up one day and said he has a World Bank loan and he wants us to. But when I called them to come and defend their loan, I found out that if I append my signature for Kaduna State to source this loan, I know that governance will suffer, my people will suffer, long after El-Rufai is gone. Because the loan he was asking for was 350. Now, when you put it with the 250, that's about 600 million. Kaduna is not an oil producing state. Almost 90% of our industries have all gone down. And I don't know how this money is going to be borrowed. And secondly, there's nothing wrong with borrowing money. If you are borrowing money to invest in agriculture, or to invest in industry, or invest in mining, something that the money, your investment will generate revenue for the payment of salary. That for the repayment servicing of this loan, that is not bad. But he wants to borrow money. He wanted to borrow money and decorate the city, expanding the road, building shopping malls, and then putting street light. Okay, and building bridges. I said, okay, there is nothing wrong with that. But you can use the federal allocation to do that.
All right. If
you are going to borrow this money, we have to pay this money. And I don't see how building bridges inside a city where there is no hold up can pay this loan. And because of that, he got infuriated, he started abusing me, insulting me, persecuting me, threatening me that I will lose my seat and whatever. And he has a successor, somebody to replace me who will go and get the loan. Then this became the basis of our battle for almost 8 years. And I told him he's been used to fighting people, but he has never fought a person who was groomed and grilled in the struggle like me. I was ready to take him from the beginning to end, and I did. And I said, I will lose my seat, but history will vindicate me. And it vindicated me today. Because right now in Kaduna State, the loan has stagnated governance, it has stifled governance, it has suffocated governance, it has made it impossible for governance to be wrong. In Kaduna State, well, this is the reality. Posterity has vindicated.
All right. Now, let me ask you this before we really get into how this is so commonplace across the country. Now, today, we hear the House of Assembly in Kaduna State setting up a committee to probe all of these loans. We've also seen the former speaker come out to say he didn't append his signature to that loan and all of that. Now, do you have any faith, with your knowledge not just of Kaduna State, but on how the system runs, do you have any faith that this is going to amount to anything? And amount to anything is that the average Nigerian will want to see is to have the former governor, pay for this, whatever that means.
You see, the Kaduna State loan is unfortunate that it became the reason for so many misfortunes in the state.
Yes.
First of all, Kaduna borrowed $350 million when the rate of naira to a dollar was about 300 naira to a dollar. Now we're going to pay when it's about 1,100, 1,200. So you can see the debt has almost tripled. So, and it consumed the most substantial part of our federal allocation revenue in the state. So that is a problem. So now, the committee set up by the investigation committee by the State House of Assembly is also another vindication of myself. Because I have suffered a lot. Religious leaders insulted me, politicians insulted me, political groups insulted me, political parties suspended me, and I lost my seat all because I said no to $350 million loan.
Yeah.
So in this respect, I have known very well that if I have approved of that loan, it could have been a different matter. But now the State Assembly has no option than to retrieve the money that was looted, because there are tens of abandoned road and
All right. Now, let's look at this because this is not just a Kaduna State story. Because right now, when we get to read the papers, it seems as though this is a problem unique to Kaduna State. But this is indeed a Nigerian problem. And, you really gave a rundown of the processes that government is supposed to go through to request for and get these loans approved. But then clearly we see that is violated across board. And using the unique case of Kaduna State, we could see that here you were, and indeed the other two senators from Kaduna State at that time, all refusing. Senator Hunkuyi also suffered, persecution just like you during that time. We see how that set of senators stood and said, no, this wouldn't happen. But then here came another set, and the rules still remain the same, but they could violate it. We can look at the Nigerian story and also say the same thing. Because you see the federal government time and time again borrow money for things like, flashy SUVs, even though these things are very beautiful, when you look at them and all of that. But the question, just like you raised about Kaduna State, still remains, what is this going to be used for? What is going to pay for it? What is it going to be, where is it going to be tied to? And then when you start repaying or servicing this debt, how would that affect governments or not? If you look at the Nigerian story, it is still the same thing. One still recalls that when you were in the Senate there was a time when President Muhammadu Buhari also wanted, forgotten how much it was, but you also stood and said no, because then you were chairman Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debt. You looked at the facts and you said no. But not only has those monies been collected, but government continues to collect money till today. Now, this brings me to this question. Between the people, and when I say the people, I mean Nigerian citizens, the electorate, the masses, whatever anybody wants to call them, everyday Nigerians, and their representatives, those in government, where do we really locate this blame? Because there are some people who will complain and say the problem is actually leaders, selfish leaders, having high offices, rather than think about the masses, they don't, and all of that. But some people think, on the other hand, whether it comes to not holding leaders accountable or even joining the media and the leaders and people in government or the political elite to vilify anybody who dares say no to the wishes of this political elite, they think the people are guilty. Now, in your opinion, where do you locate this blame?
You see, on matters of governance, the leaders are to be squarely blamed because they are the ones who are constitutionally mandated to lead the people.
All right.
So they're supposed to have the vision and the foresight to avoid tragedies that may later consume their people and create problems for their people. Many governors today have, and even in the past, have suffocated their states with debts simply because they have a compliant state assembly that is always at their disposal to approve whatever they requested. That's it. Secondly, you have the citizens to blame, who, especially the organized civil society, that they are the elite part of the citizens who are educated, and they are the ones who are supposed to champion causes.
Yeah.
You will see most people in Nigeria only interested in what happens at the federal level. They don't focus on what happens in their own state. If you go to the social media today, pick any person in that media space, whether on Twitter or on Facebook. You will see that they devote almost 80 to 90% of their time on what happened in Abuja. Many of them are even afraid to criticize their own senators they elected or to call them out. You will see that if you have take sample of people on Twitter in states like Anambra or Enugu especially on this issue on kind of borrowing, you will see that people would like to go to attend public hearing in National Assembly, whether in the Senate or House of Reps.
Yeah.
You will never see them attending public hearing in their state House of Assembly. They don't even know who are their councillors. They don't know what their councillor, chairman, local government is doing. So this is what happened. So you can see that you blame the leaders for failing in leadership, and also you blame the citizens for not holding their leaders accountable. So these are the issues. And as for the media is becoming it's supposed to be the predecessor brain that would help in overseeing the activities of governance. But if you look at it, the media is fighting a battle of survival too with the coming of the internet age. Many of them could not afford to take on leaders who have also been patronizing them and have become the lifeline for their own survival. So these are the issues and the reality we face. Many governors are not facing the kind of position they're supposed to face and the scrutiny they're supposed to face as a government, and that gives the opportunity for them to do as they like and plunge their states into problems. Contracts are awarded to friends and family members, and then you see political positions are shared to family members and people that are recommended by friends. And there is no emphasis on competence. There is no emphasis on vision. It is all about I have won election, and as such, whatever I say becomes the rule. So this is the situation we are in this country.
All right. Now, I don't know how many minutes you can do this. Now, if one was to give you pen and paper and you were to write about what you want to see going forward in Nigeria, because you painted a wonderful picture. 2 weeks ago on this platform, this was actually our focus, right? There is absence of accountability at the state. And then we had the head of CISLAC, as a guest on this program, and he really painted a perfect picture about the reasons why he thinks this happens, from fear to ignorance and all of that. And he called on both the media and organized groups, like you said, like NANS. Where is NANS? Where is NUJ? And all of those. Where is the NBA? Why I'm asking you this final question is because, look at the role that people like you and others played during the era of the military, from the era of Abacha, Ibrahim Babangida, and all of that. It seems as though we had a more vibrant civil society. I'm not even talking about the organized ones. Yes, we had a vibrant, organized civil society, but I'm just talking about a more enlightened and vibrant populace than we have today. So if you were to say, maybe if we adopt this, we start doing this, if this so and so group could rise up, then we could start having this kind of awareness that leads to more accountability, especially at the state level. What would you advocate for?
You see, during our own era, during the military era when we were fighting, our fight was to overthrow military rule and restore a democratic order in Nigeria. And we were prepared to do it because of our lives. And we don't fear death, we don't fear imprisonment, and we don't And also you can access information you want, and you can also call out people in power as you want. But it's not simply about insulting leaders who are in power, but it is also about being intelligent and smart in what you do. If you are from one local government, there's nothing wrong with you going through the books and see what budget has been allocated, how much that local government has collected from federation account, what is the idea, and monitoring what has been such monies has been used for, and demanding answers for it.
Yeah.
But they don't do it now. It only begins and ends with insult. And as far as the politician is concerned, insulting a politician rather than holding him to account on issues. You see, the politicians have a thick skin. Many of them have no shame. Many of them have no conscience. So when you insult them, you insult their mother, their father, without bringing the issues on the table for which they can be held account. You are just doing nothing. But the new generation of Nigerians have done the good thing when it comes to issue of tortures like the NSAS. But you see, apart from that, the spirit died. So we need an awakened, an enlightened, and intelligent generation of people who will now go to the nitty-gritty and keep the people in power in check in terms of what they promise, what they are doing, and how they are doing it. That is my view.
Wow. Thank you very much. That was a powerful punchline. You're talking about an awakened, enlightened, and intelligent, approach to all of this. And like you said, this is the only thing that you think can keep our leaders in check. Thank you very much, Senator, for this conversation we've had. God bless you.
Thank you, Juan.
All right. Okay, Citizens Forum on Sapiencia's channel. Of course, today our guest on Citizens Forum, Senator Shehu Sani, Chairman, Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debts. I think the 8th Senate. We remember him fondly because not only was he outspoken, the first senator who came out to explain to Nigerians exactly how much and the breakdown of how senators earn got him into lots of trouble. I think the only person who saved him then was Senate President Saraki. I think we recall that, yes. And, really doing a lot. And as it has to do with Kaduna's debt, which is now a very controversial issue, he was the senator who explained carefully that Kaduna was in no place to receive this loan because the debt burden on Kaduna State would have to rise to $520-something million. And then not forgetting the billions in naira, I think 85 or so. Here we are. All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm only interested in thanking the former senator for echoing and okaying what I've been saying over 20 years. And what is that? Focusing our mentality engineered by the political allies on the federal government. One side, the state government, state of Nigeria is the component that made up the federal government. That anything that happens in the state has affected the federal government of the nation. Now, the senators are Jude Geoman, you know down in you that is exactly the games we play here in Nigeria, and especially in the southeast. Tell me any day that we have discussed about Anambra State or even Enugu State, our neighboring state here. And that is the reason why nobody knows exactly what is happening. Because everybody wakes up in the morning and want to see what Tinubu of Buhari has done as far as it is APC. They want to know. They want to talk it. When the state government is there doing what they are doing. Have we forgotten that all those people in Abuja during election time, they must come down to their wards, which is where? In their state, in their village, to do elections. And after that, they will go back to Abuja. Does it not tell us that we have where everything started, which is the state? Let me not say local government, which is the state. That those people that we are criticizing come from state. So, my friend, it is high time, and it's better for us to tell ourselves the truth and point where everything started, so the people will be aware on who to blame when the blame is to be blamed. If the federal government is to be blamed, we blame. Not from January to December. Tinubu this, Buhari that, this person, good luck, this and that. When the state governors are there doing the worst, you understand? All those senators are there not from a state. All those philanthropists, all those business people, even the religious institution and all those people, do they not have states? Yes, we talk about Abuja every day. I'm not talking about because of APC or whatever. I'm talking in general. So I beg our anchor people in the radio, at least 3 times in a week, let them open our eyes on what is happening in our state. Because I'm a mom waiting, you know, whether I'm in law,
all right, we lost that call. All right, I think what you said is a challenge to everyone. I mean, like I said, 2 weeks ago, that was our focus on Citizens Forum. It's a challenge for all of us. It's a challenge for those of us in the media. It's a challenge for everyone who calls himself a citizen. I mean, just like Senator Shehu Sani said, how many of us can say they've gone to a public hearing at the state level, right? And like I always say, when you talk about any institution, you're talking about the Nigerian. If you talk about any institution in Nigeria, you're talking about the Nigerian, because it is still the Nigerian attitude that you find everywhere. Whether you're going to talk about government, you're going to talk about the clergy, you're going to talk about the media, you're going to talk about the family, any institution you're going to talk about. So it's a challenge for all of us, and we must all take that challenge, whatever the cost is, whatever the consequence is, whatever the blame is, it must be a shared blame. It's not one we can heap on the doorstep of any one institution. And that exactly is what, and Ron, nobody, I doubt if any, would really, stand up against the head of state. So also the kingship. When the king arises, then there is a king. But then it's democracy where when leaders emerge, the citizens continue to have a role to hold them accountable. So you don't just vote me into office. You also have the power to hold me accountable. But do we use that power? That's a question for all of us. Hello.
Good morning, Emma.
Yes, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. My location is from Manager.
All right.
Thank you very much. I'm listening to your guest. Listening to all the question you asked, we should hold our leaders accountable. Very nice and good. But you ask yourself, is it workable? Just like what happened to the senator. When he was a senator, he was approached to sign for the government to borrow. He gave them reasons why they shouldn't borrow that money, how it will affect the state. Yet, what did the governor did? He threatened him that he will lose his seat. And never. He didn't return back. The governor threatened him that he will make sure that he loses his seat, and the person that was signing for him, we overtake his seat. And if you look at what happened, you see that is what happened.
What is your point exactly? Because what you're saying, you're trying to make a point. Make the point.
Thank you very much. So the point I'm making now is we found ourselves in a country that holding the government accountable, you become the victim. And when you try so much, so many people will see you as certain already, somebody who is not worthy to be around them. That is what I'm trying to say. Just like the protest that happened in Abuja, see some people going to protest that they should leave the former governor of Kaduna State. For what?
You are trying to debate. Let me ask you a question. You are an Igbo person. Let me ask you a clear question.
Thank you very much.
Have you heard about markets getting, being set ablaze and, people losing all their property?
Yes.
Does that stop people from trading?
No.
Have you heard about people, boarding the bus and having accidents on the road?
Of course.
Does that stop people from traveling?
No.
So what I'm trying to find out what your point is exactly, and I don't know what your point is. Talking about victims. In Nigeria, we are all victims. In Nigeria today, 2024, you are a victim. If you cannot travel to go bury your mother in the village, I don't know what other victim you are talking about. If somebody is afraid to come back to the southeast to have his daughter's traditional wedding, I don't know what you mean by victim. Maybe I might need to learn English language, but I think I know English language a little. So what exactly do we mean when we say we are victims? We are afraid of being victims. When you're afraid of traveling the highway to go have fun, what do you mean by a victim? When your child is leaving your home, you're afraid your child might be kidnapped, your child might be raped, you are afraid of all of these things. You're waiting for, what's the meaning of victim? What's the meaning of, what does it really mean that someone is a victim? When your child is held, your child goes to school and your child, you get a call, or your wife, and you get a call. Do you know how many families, even in Anambra State, have faced this ordeal or are going through that today? When your farmers cannot go to farm, you're talking of victimhood in Nigeria? You're afraid of being a victim in Nigeria? And the example we can talk about is a senator losing a seat. Of all the categories of victims in Nigeria, Senator Shehu Sani is the least. If you want to talk about victims in Nigeria, you talk about people whose school is resuming and they don't know how to pay their children's school fees. They are victims. If you talk about people who opened up companies and now is shut down, these are victims. If you talk about people who've been laid off because of the economy, these are victims. If you talk about people who don't know where their next meal is coming from, these are victims. If you're talking about people who have little children, little babies, who are sent out at age 5, 6 to go fend for themselves, these are victims. At least, if it's English language we want to speak, and we're going to use the word victims, then all this category of people I talked about are victims. You are going to be a victim regardless. You just choose what you be a victim of. But then for the man who stands on his feet and decides to take his destiny into his own hands, that's not a victim. That in English language is called bravery. But then that is one word that is very difficult for many Nigerians to afford. Victims and heroes. All right, Citizens Forum will be here same time, same station next week. My name is Jude Geoman. I hope you're not a victim until we see you again next week. Have a beautiful day ahead.